Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. No real introduction, you know what we're doing. What is sensorality? So just to clarify, I just straight up, a lot of times, like I said, I'll rederive or I'll put a different, sometimes what's on the screen is not what I say, but that's me like continuing the logic or writing a theorem that encompasses everything I was about to say, but I straight up just misspoke last episode. So on episode 203, I said, amorality. I mixed up amorality and amorality. I kind of said, amorality or amorality are spelled the same. They are clearly not. Armor has an R in there, and I just literally just spelled it wrong in my notebook. So I put it on the screen, but just wanted to clarify here. But now we can be getting to our morality, because remember, we're building up. We're building our logic to ask a simple question: what is sensorality? And the answer, or ask a simple question, and the answer will be sensorality. But what is an armor, right? An armor is a sensor with a C. It's an inanimate object, and it filters mass. If you try to stab somebody with a sword in the 1300s, that armor is censoring the sword. So an armor is sensor with a C. Again, when I was talking about, like what language is older, like when I say efficiency is based on CN and that's in Spanish, does that mean Spanish is older? I mean, it might be. It doesn't really matter. But another thing that kind of popped out was, again, amor, right? Amorality, why not amorality? Because remember, the syllability is what is preserved, or the pronunciation is what is preserved. The syllables are what's fundamental to words, and languages are not distinct. Just another thought, nothing really useful there. What is completeness? I keep saying we're going to demonstrate a completeness of a proof, right? We can't have a complete theory of anything. There's always going to be theorems that are true that we can't prove. There's always going to be infinitely many more things that can't be proven or determined true or false regardless. And so completeness, again, is just, it's a subset of the reality of the things of the information you can process. So what is completeness? It is finality, it is comprehensivity, it is describing everything as much as it can be described. It is doing a process as much as a process can be done. Like I said, we've constructed this variable sensorality for our purposes here, and now we've constructed it, and now we're iterating all of its logical uses, and it'll produce our new axiom and logically exhaust any context in which sensation, sense, that base word sense, is used. Moving on, speciality is reminiscent. So now again, we can see reminiscence, and now we're getting some sort of iteration with that sense with S-E-N-S-E, and we see a lot of these words S-E-N-C-E. So again, that's going to amount to something. But just connecting again, last time was arsenal, which was the sourcinality element out in the wild, which is again just sensorality's syllables mixed up, but reminiscent, right? Nostalgia, sentimentality is reminiscent. And so again, just completing this proof by reducing, converging to this, 2 words or something. Again, we can look it up for speciality, but converging and trying to produce our new axiom. Sensorality is centality, just taking away adding just scent, like the sense of smell, scent. Centrality, centality. Speciality is ceremonious. Sensorality is harmonious. Harmonious. Another one of those pairs where it's clearly linguistically similar, built on the same thing, directly logically different. Sensorality seals. Sealing closes. Sensorality is cognality. Cognality, cognition. Right, you're just you're a cog in the wheel. An individual life is one of many. Scent, resent. Another, again, natural element of this sensation, sense word family. Speciality, resents. Resent, consent. Speciality is resentality. So now again, we have a prefix. We derived centality, S-C-N-T, not S-C-E-N-T, which we get to here shortly. But again, just a prefix on scent, resent. Resent, present. Now here's how you to know if you're an absolute creep. Do you resent consent? Can you answer the following question? No means yes, and yes means... That's how you know you're a rapist, you absolute freaks. Because I know a lot of you out there got the right answer. And I'm not even going to type it or say it out here, but you know who you are. You naughty, naughty boys and girls. A fort is a stronghold. Fortality, filtrality. What is filtrality? So now again, what is trality? Trality, trolley. A trolley is a cart. But now, point being is we'll get back to it, but now we have filter, right? How that ends in an ER, but now we have filtration, filtrality. Now we just have FILT. Because again, we're just iterating all of these syllables. We're going from prefix to base word to suffix. We have to iterate its entire, again, logically exhaust its word family. A trolley is a cart. How does art relate to sensation? When you're listening to a piece of music that you like, or you're seeing something visually that's stunning, whether it's a work of, painting, a drawing, or just nature itself. Right? Art appeals to sensation. Art enhances sensation. Sensation responds to art. What is art to science? Right? Now we've derived and shown that science is literally in this form of sentience, as its most close linguistic logical relative. Right? A scientist is a sensorist. That's how all measurements and deduction has occurred, is through sensation. But you'll have those phrases again, people that from a science background going into an art, and they'll say, they'll classify or talk about, that math proof is so beautiful, right? Kind of using this art appeal to something more rigorous. And then people will say, that person's so good at painting, he's got it down to a science. Again, just the natural usage of these expressions of the sentiment that people say. And so what is art to science? It's one and the same thing. Or, what is religion to science? It's one and the same thing. Artality, scientality, right? Science is efficient. Here's again another, if you're confused at anything I've said, right? Do you agree yes or no with that statement? Science is efficient. Not the actual implementation, not the people doing it, but doing the process of analysis, establishing facts, is that useful, right? Efficiency is useful. And the answer is yes. But again, because that's kind of like our renormalization. I even put fundamental theorem of physics. I might put it on the screen, might not. But again, remember, a fundamental theorem is the current, most general, comprehensive thing I can say about a given section of ontology. So science is efficient. And again, because both, again, we see it's just a modification. The logic is different, but linguistically, it's just a modification of CN, right? Science is based on CN, and efficiency is based on CN. So again, it's like another natural definition. Sensorality is scientality. Sensorality is centality. Sensorality with a C is centality. Arsenality is incendiarity. Right? Incendiary is related to arsenal. Back in, Genghis Khan, we're reading over in book club, or a lot in the Chinese cultures or Indian cultures, when they have like incendiary bombs, they'll, effectively like primitive Molotov cocktails, just things that are explosive. We derive burning. And so incendiary burns, or it's explosive. So an arsenal is incendiarity. Armorality, humorality. So remember, we drove that again, 100 episodes ago at this point. But what is the relationship of armor and humor? And now more generally, can we just generalize that immediately and say, clearly, right, the base there is morality. So any word that ends in M-O-R is going to generalize to morality. So now very clearly you can see how we're reducing all of this logic with these different suffixes. But what is the relationship of armor and humor? General, it relates to energy, because remember, I'm reducing every bit of linguistics I'm using. The stuff that sounds like derivation and the stuff that just sounds like me talking is all being reduced at the same time. And so general, the linguistically looks like energy, and also looks like centeral, right? But speciality is energeticality. Energetic, kinetic. Speciality is kineticality. Sensorality is geneticality. But what are genes? Like going from the actual physical reality of your double helix structure, your 4 base pairs, A, T, C, and G, like how does that store information? Right? Like how does you know, semen have, you know, it's like a terabyte of data, or I mean, it's a lot of data. But like literally, how does the shape of DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, right? So it's acid, it's the ribosomes, but like how does that physical structure store information so it can differentiate when you have a child and the arms go where the arms go and the eyes go where the eyes go, and you know, all of your different body parts differentiate, right? That's speciality in a biological sense, not even like choice. It just differentiates your cellular structure. And how is that encoded rigorously, geometrically, chemically within your DNA? And how do genes preserve information? Right? Clearly it's acidic, but speciality is acidic and sensorality is basic. We've already derived that. Because again, the more basic you are, the more applicable to everything you are. We're kind of looking for this natural difference. Again, like I said, at this point, I believe we're still solving sensorality with a C. But like I said, at the end of these proofs, I just feel like I know nothing. And what we're really doing is we're just looking for a simple question to ask where it, you know, it shows this natural definition, this stabilizing definition of sensorality. And then the reductions will be very, very quick, but still on that quest. Speciality infiltrates, sensorality filtrates, filtrality filtrate, filtrate vibrate. So again, remember, it's like 2 iterations up from the base. Again, that fundamental stability of 2. Sensorality is filtrationality. And we already said that, but now again, we can rationality. We can just take that away. And we have that filt, right? We can cancel out that whole word rationality, right? Sensorality, because we're getting rationality is, right? Hopefully human beings are rational. Clearly they're not at this point in time, but that pool table right next to me is never going to be rational. It's never going to make decisions. And so we're going to trying to find this thing that's actually defined, where when we are in R3, all of these words that are malleable or that change or that are relative to one another, they're not set, right? So we're looking for that stabilizing theorem. But we have filt, and we just generalize that. Sensorality is filtality. Mass is not continuous. Just another logical restatement of the mass gap. If mass gap exists, which it does, that means mass is not continuous. Speciality is animosity. Going from continuous, that OUS, to animosity. Again, some jumps. Again, I'm not going to show you every single step now that I have already. And so you can clearly see what I'm doing. Animosity is viscous, right? How is animosity resistance to flow? But it is, right? If you're at a party and the vibes are flowing and someone is being a whole dick, right? It's that animosity it goes against the flow of the experience, the night out, the whatever. Viscous, vicious. Animosity is vicious. And so that is where I finished up with derivation today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.